Hi, welcome. I'm Mary and I hook books, and this is going to be my October crochet and reading wrap up. So this week was early voting, so I put on my Meowica socks, and I think our voting sticker is really cute this year. My coworker has the stomach flu, so I got called in, so we're gonna just kind of like speed run most of this. The first book I haven't talked about in another vlog is Hex, and oh my gosh! So I did I don't know, I put things on my TBR and then I completely forget them. So this came up at my library, and at first it was kind of like a quirky, almost cozy, kind of a ghost or witch story. And then the second part, I was like, oh no, this belongs in the horror section. And it was just a really interesting take. And like seeing how this town deals with this ghost or witch ghost, like it was so good. Oh my gosh, you guys. And for that, I made a witch's cauldron. I finished the Newsflash series, and I picked up feedback because I thought it would pick up where the third book left off, but it didn't. I actually ended up liking it more than the first book. So I feel like Mary Grant was like, hey, what if I went back and told the same story from the other point of view with a lot of like really cool queer poly characters. So I thought that was really neat. It was very fast paced. It did feel like it was trying to do so much because it put 3 books into 1 book. So it was a little rushed at times, but I think this is my favorite actually. And if you didn't read the first 3, I would say you could even read this one by itself. And I also, alongside that, read Rise, which is the collection of the novellas. And like any kind of collected stories, there's really engaging, cool stories, and then there's stories that I just kind of meh. So this one does give me the answers that I was looking for about Georgia and Sean from the end of book 3. It was kind of underwhelming, so I'm kind of glad that that's not what she ended up doing with book 4 of the series. And there was a really cool one about going to Australia and how Australia dealt with the zombie apocalypse, so that was really cool. If you're not a super fan of the series, maybe or maybe not, pick it up. A couple of the stories were really cool, and I'd say you get more out of it if you've read the series, but I don't think you have to have read the series. So that one was okay. Feedback, I think, was my favorite out of the Newsflash. And I made little viruses to go with the zombie virus. The Blinds was a really interesting exploration of whether we are who we are because of something deep inside us, or if we are who we are because of our memories that made us. So this is a town of criminals who've had their minds wiped, and they don't remember what they did, and they're told that some of them are actually just in the witness protection program, so some of them are actually innocent. They just can't be out and about in the world. So no one talks about it, that's an agreement, but you're always like, am I a bad guy? So it was really interesting. And then there was a murder in this town of people who may or may not be criminals. And it kind of goes from there. It was a really interesting exploration. The very end I thought was a little too convenient, but the story took a lot of turns that I didn't expect, but were still pretty logical. So it's a very cool, twisty thriller, and I would definitely recommend it. And in the book, everyone has to take their new name from a list of vice presidents and a list of movie stars. So who would you take? There's a Marilyn Roosevelt, there's a couple other really cute ones I can't think of off the top of my head, but what would you be? I think that I would be Catherine Wells. Hope. And here's my little tin star for our sheriff of the blinds. Patricia Wants to Cuddle is a really, I don't want to call it cute, it's an interesting kind of tongue-in-cheek exploration of some pop culture elements. And I really thought Patricia would be a bigger part of it, considering the book is called Patricia Wants to Cuddle. And I thought it would be a little bit more campy. And it is a little ironically funny. All these people are on the catch, and they're all Glamsta, you know, off-brand Instagram stars competing for, you know, the catch, but really like just to get their 15 minutes of fame. And that part was really interesting. It was kind of like a fun little satire, and then it turned into a bloodbath. So both of those elements worked really well for me. Overall, a pretty good book. And I didn't quite finish, but there's the beginnings of Patricia. The Only Survivors is a disappointment. I think it was supposed to be a mystery thriller. I really just did not care about any of the characters, and I didn't buy the ending. But it does take place on a beach, so I made these cute little barefoot sandals. Differently Morpheus was also kind of a disappointment. It wasn't bad, and it has a really nifty premise. But Yahtzee Croshaw is usually one of my go-to humor writers. So interdimensional blob aliens come to Earth seeking asylum, and a murder mystery ensues. So it was kind of fun. It's just not what I'm used to from Yahtzee Croshaw. But I made a little ditto Pokemon for our blobless, differently Morpheus aliens. The only one left is a campy, twisty, kind of melodramatic little mystery thriller, and if you go into it with those expectations, I think it's a lot of fun. A woman does some unethical things in her caregiving profession, and so she has to take whatever job she can get from there on. So she gets hired by a woman who also was accused of murder in her day. So it's fun and campy. I made a little black medicine bag for it. The Locked Door is a fun, campy, twisty thriller, and if you go into it wanting just a nice popcorn read, I think you'll have a really good time. Our main character is a doctor, so I made a little plague doctor for her. Along those lines, I also made a little Grim Reaper for Mort, and this is a Discworld series. It was actually my least favorite of the Discworlds. It was very overhyped, but Terry Pratchett just has really fun world building, so if you like the Discworld, I would recommend it. We're all just gonna pretend it's not 2 days later when I'm finishing filming my wrap-up. And we're just gonna move on to Battle Royale, and this is a very Hunger Games-esque kind of a premise, but it is kind of the original, the tentpole. It's in Japan. For some reason, the government does this for research, and they just randomly pick I think they're what, like 9th grade class? Like they pick 3 9th grade classes every year and they make them all kill each other? Like, I don't get it. But the book was very fast-paced. It was very action-heavy, and there were some like brutal scenes, but it wasn't gory. It wasn't grotesque. So I would say, if you're going to make people fight to the death, at least let them wear their gym clothes. They had to wear their sailor suits. So I made a little Sailor Moon. The Handyman method is a haunted house, but like if it was haunted by the spirit of incels. So this was really good. I enjoyed the run, but I want to know, Nick, what turtle hurt you? Every book I've read of his, something terrible happens to a turtle. So yeah, and it was pretty gross in this one. So if that's a thing that you can't handle, like, yeah, just warning. So they buy this new house. So I made a housewarming corner to corner square. Delicate Condition is what the last season of American Horror Story was based on, but oh my gosh, the book was so much better. Hearing her inner monologue really helped drive home some of the themes that you couldn't really do with just seeing actors on screen without like awkward talkovers. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and even if you watched American Horror Story, I would say read this book because the ending was so much better than the TV show. Oh, I didn't know I lived near a train. But she's doing IVF, trying to have a baby, so I made a little granny baby hat. Never Whistle at Night is an anthology of dark Indigenous stories, and like most short story collections, there were a couple that were better than others. They were all pretty good. The creepiest ones for me, though, were the ones that had to do with teeth. I did sneak in some nonfiction this month. The Polygamist's Daughter is a really good memoir of someone that grew up in the LeBaron clan, and normally tales about the LeBarons are very sensational and they circle around the Blood Atonement murders, but this is a very personal and brave memoir, and I really enjoyed it. Another nonfiction this month was Amusing Ourselves to Death, which, a little terrifying. It's only 175 pages, so if you were at all interested, I would say definitely pick it up. Back to my sci-fi roots, I picked up Ad Astra, and this is another short story collection. They're all pretty darn good, really. So I made stars for Ad Astra, which means to the stars. And if you like contemplative short sci-fi or Firefly, I would definitely pick this one up. Diavola is probably my favorite of the haunted house style tropes that I have read lately. I really loved this main character, and the more I thought about it, the more I loved it. So originally I think I gave it a 4 and then I bumped it to 4.25 and then I landed on 4.5 because the more I thought about it, the more I really appreciated it. It's not a 5-star because the family drama in the beginning kind of turned me off and I almost DNF'd, but I am so happy that I continued all the way through. Oh my gosh, I loved it. And our main character's niece brings along on vacation with her her stuffed animal, Blossom the possum. And I cannot forget the reason I made these cute patriotic hair scrunchies. Hope never dies. I really enjoyed this. It made me smile so much. Fills me with hope. It's Joe Biden and Barack Obama figuring out who killed an Amtrak conductor. I mean, yeah, and their friendship. I just love their bromance so much. So I needed that coziness in my life. Then I read some Desperate Glory, and this, oh my gosh, how did they, in the book, they describe it as fascist space Girl Scouts. And it was just, again, in the beginning it seems very typical, very normal, spacey, generational ship type, and then things just get deeper and twistier, and it really, I really enjoyed it. And this is too cute and like bubbly for how intense this book kind of was, but it's outer space and there's aliens. Keep It in the Family is a super twisty, tense thriller about a couple that buys an older house that hasn't been lived in maybe 40 years, and when they renovate it, they find bodies, like literal bodies, in the attic, and things just get crazier from there. So for that, their new house, I made them a little festive gingerbread house. Another 5-star book this month, that's 2 in 1 month, which is very exciting, was Such Sharp Teeth. And this had been on my TBR for a long time. It got a lot of buzz a while back, and I ended up really loving this. It's the werewolf transformation as allegory for all the trauma that just is being a freaking woman. Loved the humor in it, but also the deeper undertones to it. So good. And of course, for our wolf, I had to make a little werewolf. So that was my October 2024 wrap up. Overall, such a really good month. How about you? Did you have a good reading month? Are you going to pick up any of the books that I recommended? And I hope spooky season and fall and the holidays treat you well. I hope you take care of yourself, get some exercise, drink your water, get a good night's sleep, get a massage, take a bath, whatever feeds your soul. And just remember, keep your shoulders back, head up, and breathe. Monster wants to come say hi.